Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us, both here live at Tice London and also at home or your office or the airport or wherever you are joining us from there. We have a special live, extra live teissTalk for you today where we are going to be talking about why your security team is burned out and what to do about it. First of all, though, some notices. Those of you who are joining us from outside of London or outside at least of this room, if you're joining us on LinkedIn Live, welcome, but you are on a slight delay and you won't be able to ask any questions. If you do wish to ask a question, go head over to teist.co.uk/teissTalk, log in, join us from there through the Zoom link. On the Zoom link, it doesn't work when I'm live, actually. Round about in the middle here, underneath at the bottom of your screen is the chat function. If you ask us a question there, that question is going to be transposed by the Tice elves and gremlins at the back of the room onto my little pad here into Slido. For our live audience in front of us, use Slido. There is the QR code at the top there. If you can't get that on your phone, because you're too far away, then look in a paper delegate packets on every page in there. If you do ask a question on Slido, don't post it as anonymous. Put your name next to it. Have the guts to put your name next to the question. The reason for that is, for the first time in Tice London and Tice R3 history, we have actual teissTalk mugs to give away live. So if you put your... Thank you.
I thought that was my payment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's in the post.
Exactly, that's in the post. Yeah, second class. So teissTalk mug. I've got 5 here. I do have some more, so I can be generous. Although I've been told that not to give them all away. So do put your name in, either in the question or actually if you can, instead of marking yourself as anonymous. I don't know. I don't use Slido. I'm just a clappy monkey at the front with this thing. So without further ado, I was going to introduce onto the stage. They're all ready here. Can I introduce you all to Johan? No, that's the wrong one entirely. Johan, Pavan, and Don, otherwise known as the Bald Men Middle-Aged Club. Thank you. First off, we've got our news item, which actually is also to do with burnout. It's from our friends of the show at the BBC, and it should be appearing there very, very soon. And it talks about burnout. Now, this is actually, unlike most of our teissTalk articles, which are very much of the moment, this is actually from October last year, I think it is. September last year, very nearly there. September last year, and it gave some very real examples of why burnout is a growing problem in cybersecurity. What I find particularly interesting about this, folks, is this is the BBC, and this is talking specifically about cybersecurity and specifically about burnout. That tells me this actually is starting to become seen as quite a real problem.
They're surprisingly with it.
I know, right? Who knew?
Heaven forbid.
So you're as surprised as I am.
I am. Well, I'm surprised that they're so with it, but I'm not surprised that this is a problem. Because burnout is massive in our industry. Everyone's talking about it. Nobody knows quite what to do with it or what to do about it. And we're struggling to retain people in the industry. We're struggling to retain CISOs. Good people are leaving the industry. Good people are getting sick because the industry is making them sick. The job is making them sick. And roles that report to CISO are also suffering from very similar things as the CISOs require their minions to take some of that load. And if you're sharing the load and your minions are getting sick, how much of a problem is that not?
I mean, with that, for the BBC, it was a carry-on of the main news stories of the summer being the
M&S breach,
the M&S co-op, Jaguar Land Rover later on, etc. And so therefore that was their approach, is a case of there are further ramifications beyond just a cyber attack, just beyond data. I mean, to the general person, what is data? etc. They don't really care about it. It's they get told about it to care about it. But for the actual the teams around it, the knock-on effect down the supply chains, etc. This was something that most definitely is newsworthy. Personally, I was gratified to see the BBC casting a spotlight on it.
Yeah.
We're not doing a great job of selling the profession here. I think, I think the reality is that it's kind of like many mental health issues, is that we don't talk about it. We expect it to go away. We put it aside. We blame it on lack of resilience. We blame it on lack of, organizational gumption, or this person doesn't have it, or this person has it, right? It's why does in our industry mental health need to be a stigma? Why do we need to treat it as such? It's an operational risk. Let's treat it as any other operational risk that we do as cybersecurity professionals before our clients and our organizations, is identify it, manage it, surround it with the necessary resources, and address it in order to minimize it. But more often than not, we tend to characterize it, we tend to identify it, we tend to label it, we tend to hand it off to HR, we tend to employ around it. Let's address it head on.
But here's the thing: we're not unique in the world in having burnout or mental health problems or anything like that. But it does seem like, excuse me, it does seem like the the roles and maybe our industry as such tries to overlook it and tries to brush it under the carpet a little too much. You're talking about, HR, we're not taking it to HR, we're not that. It feels like because we're in security, we deal in secrets and we're measured on failure. Therefore, we don't want to talk about it. And we definitely aren't going to talk about it if it's shown as being a failure. So therefore, we're our own worst enemies.
We do it to ourselves in a big way. A lot of us came up through IT support roles, perhaps a network manager, perhaps that was what led you to security, perhaps working with systems, perhaps via audit. But those, let's not talk about them. But those of us who came up through IT probably came up in a culture that celebrated 12-hour days.
It's very macho.
Where working 80 hours a week was seen as a badge of honor. You brilliant worker, you. We're working through starting to work on a Friday night and then going home as your colleagues arrive on Monday morning was that was well done, you.
Yeah, what did you get? Slap on the back and nothing else?
And in order to progress, what did we do? Let's take some more responsibility on. Let's take some more on. Let's put more stuff on our backs.
I think more on is right, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, speak for yourself. But we just pack ourselves with so much responsibility that in the end, it is no surprise that our knees start buckling and we start destroying ourselves. Well, we're not sleeping. We're not eating well. I mean, pizza during an incident, that's not even brain food.
Come on, look at us. We're all 22 years old. And look what's happened.
And also, a pizza during an incident. Can you imagine? Hey, everybody, thanks for working the last 22 hours. Here's a salad.
Yeah. Well, so for me, I'd like to go slightly back and actually look at how and why. So the reason I talk about this is that I was the only named individual inside the Travelex cyber attack. And at age 44, I had heart surgery as a direct result from this. As such, I like to talk about this. So why is cyber really impacted by this? And they're like, well, let's go all the way back in evolution. Evolution to the whole of mankind and the nature takes decades at the earliest. Hundreds of years normally. I mean, you may have extraordinary events like Chernobyl that you may see a change in the environment inside kind of 10, 20 years. Cybersecurity has to evolve like that.
Yeah.
By the simple fact is things like 0 days, your entire process, everything changes from that point on, and you have to evolve, you have to change. And that is not what your brain is hardwired for.
Yeah. I think we definitely moved into the panel proper here, but
sorry.
Yeah.
no, not at all, not at all. It's the news item was directly related to it. We've got some questions straight away. I've got more questions here in the first 5 minutes than I have virtually all day. So I think this is well, either the mugs are working, or I think this is a topic that's really strongly in people's minds. So the first one from Mr. Steve Fennell. Well done. Let me just, as being the first on the board. Come see me afterwards, Steve. Steve said, "Is the burnout of the cyber team likely to be accompanied by security fatigue for the user community?"
Yes.
Why?
So once again, we're going to have to go back into what's actually happening. When you start getting burnout, or even before that, your job, you're looking at risk, you're looking at threat. And even by using those words, what you're getting is a small amount of neuroadrenaline. It's the precursor to adrenaline inside your body. And so your body's automatically, just by those words, is starting the fight or flight process. With that, the number of times that happens and you're just being constantly drip fed this, your body will start to get a bit too used to it and it will keep on going. Now, with that, you'll get initial stress response inside your head. It's inside the locus coeruleus, apparently. I had to look that up and it's written down here. It's not me being amazing. And with that, that becomes to something that's called hyperarousal. And hyperarousal gives sustained levels of neuroadrenaline, leading to a state of constant taxing alertness characterized by anxiety, irritability, difficulty sleeping, always on edge feelings. Does that sound anywhere near like I'm seeing nodded heads?
That's huge, Jay, that is.
I'll tell you, it doesn't sound like arousal, though.
No, it doesn't. But you do that too much, you go to something called systemic exhaustion, which is the actual burnout phase. I think we might be able to guess that without me having to read this off. But one of those things is it does lead to brain structure changes, which can lead to what's described as reduced professional efficiency. Answer to the question.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. I'm going to move on to another question because we've got so many here that are coming in. Going to move on to another question. Well, underlying causes, I think we've just already talked about those. So, Damien, so thank you, but no joy in the mug. Gary Osborne, doesn't it link to some of the themes from earlier today about the breadth of the role, superhero syndrome, and our desire to want to fix the world? I think to your point about some of that macho work environments, to the point where where we're trying to fix all the things all the time. We don't want to be the one that's named in the breach. We don't want to be the whatever. So
yeah, we're acting like infantry people. We're hearing gunfire and running towards it, and that's, well, commendable if you're an incident response. But every day, all the time, any problem doesn't have to be our problem necessarily.
Yeah.
But we tend to take them on. We tend to make our roles broader and broader because we think that makes us more powerful, more valuable. Many of us have that superhero mentality, especially the males, when we're competing with each other and the room becomes so adrenaline soaked that yeah.
With that,
it's just surprising that everyone isn't bashing their heads against the walls.
Well, the CISO role, part of the role is, I mean, how many CISO roles have you seen the term ownership in by itself?
Yeah.
And then with that, part of the CISO role, it's unwritten, but you are trying to save the world. And it's a hell of a thing to say. But if you think about how you are trying to share IOCs, or you're trying to give tips and hints and share the understanding and et cetera, you are continually trying to make the world better. And that's a one-way street. The world is not going to be making you any better with it. So therefore, the understanding about how to balance, and more importantly, how to build your team, the team that you can rely on and the team that you can pass stuff to and go, right, you've got that. I'm going to carry on with something else.
So here's a question about direct cause and effect. It's from Matt W. I think this one deserves a mug as well. Do you think that burnout is greatly affected by small teams and overall shrinking budgets? Matt, well done.
I'm gonna answer this both ways. Maybe.
Are you a consultant?
Get on
I
with
am.
it.
I'm going to say maybe because I know a lot of small dynamic teams that with clear role responsibility, clear definition of process, clear focus and having each other's back can operate much more efficiently than a large organization that doesn't have process, doesn't have role responsibility, feels somewhat disaggregated. However, I do think budgets are a tremendous issue. I do think the over-reliance on technology solutions before you have processes and people in place. And I do think in cyber, we're one of the few few communities that are in a crisis 24/7, yet have never been trained how to operate in a crisis 24/7, right? We're very happy to run tabletop exercises for our clients. We're very happy to run simulations. How many of our own people have been in a simulation? How many of our own people have been taught how to address their own mental health in the middle of a simulated scenario? Somehow it's a badge of honor that you've dealt with X number of cyber incidents, right? But not the fact that we actually have proper training. Would you ever put an air traffic controller in charge of guiding airplanes in at Heathrow if they didn't have training on how to do that in a crisis? Or how to do that when they're dealing with multiple scenarios? No, you wouldn't.
Although in fairness, they have a massive burnout problem as
And we're headed in that direction.
yeah, yeah,
We're headed in that direction, but they actually train for it. We don't.
yeah, yeah. Good point.
There's also something to be said about, one of the, if you think about the mechanisms of stress, stressors don't stress us directly, right? The stress event happens, and it's our interpretation of the event and what we do with the event that makes it a stress-creating event, and that makes us eventually, suffer with too much stress.
Yeah.
So if budgets are not growing or if they are shrinking, the budget or my team shrinks, well, that means that some of my responsibility should also shrink at the same time.
But it rarely does.
And that's but that's a conversation, a robust conversation to be had with management. And boards of directors respect a bit of robustness. Some do. And they can deal with that. They're pretty robust with us, aren't they? So they can take as well as they give. So once again, we are doing it to ourselves. We are trying to do so much with so little, and that then becomes we are the ones who are spread too thin.
Andre's got a question here, another one that I think deserves a mug. Should we frame mental health as an operational risk? And then how do we prevent it from becoming yet another checkbox exercise for the compliance audit?
Yeah, I
Which I
touched
think
on
is
this
a
at the
big
beginning,
danger.
is that we treat, in every industry, we tend to treat, all right, somebody has a mental health issue, we attach a stigma to it, we send them to HR, we put maybe more hands around them. But how do we address it from an operational risk standpoint, right? We would, identify potential threat actors as operational risks. Why don't we are identifying our own people as potential operational risks, right? And how do you prevent it from being an HR tick box, right? Is that you do have to put things in place, right? And sometimes it could be really simple. Sometimes the biggest failures come in when you put a rota in place, but you don't adhere to it. You create exceptions as to why you moved away from the rota. You need predictability in these environments. People need to know that they're going to be on at certain times and off at other times. When you start blurring those boundaries, you're asking for a mental health issue. You're questioning the ability to deal with the operational risk associated with it. So by essence, you're creating that problem. So it comes down to, if you're going to be a small dynamic team or a huge, large team, put your processes in place, adhere to your processes, give your people the certainty and the comfort that they know that when they're on and they'll be supported. And when they're off, they can stay off. And that, people and the organization has their back. It's usually those failures in which tend to lead people to leave because they no longer feel supported by the organization or to suffer from burnout quicker than they would otherwise.
There's also, with that, the importance of knowing your team, one-to-ones, for example, and you need to be incredibly honest with your team, with your directs, etc., to to show, your team will follow you. If you're showing vulnerability, or if you're showing the fact that you need to do X, Y, Z to make sure you're looked after, your team will sit there and go, okay, this is okay to do this. It's an open door. It's a safe space.
Yeah. Before we move on, I'll come to you in just a second. I want to get this poll asked, which is how many of you or your organizations have been affected by burnout? So just you or someone you know in your team, et cetera, been affected by burnout. If you get that one running, and sorry, Johan, what are you about to say?
Yeah, just one thing. In order to try to prevent burnout in my team, I've made it a borderline disciplinary offense for people in my team to work when they're on holiday, because I need them to turn off, to switch off.
Yeah.
I may not switch off as much as I should, but I need my team to switch off. Right now,
it sounds like do as I say, not as I do.
There is that. No, there is that. But at the same time, right now, my team is dealing with a cyber attack. I'm sitting here, showing that I have that I'm confident in their capability, but also showing that I've taken this day to be here, and we do that, and so displaying confidence, but at the same time showing that I'm not going to be working an incident when I should be doing something else, and that I think is part of make sure that switching off is okay, and it's not only okay, it's necessary, because I need my people at their best. I've got a small team. Much is asked of them. I need them at their best. And that means when they switch off, when you're sleeping, you're healing.
No job,
all the time.
no job, any job, I don't care if it's cyber, I don't care if it's anything, is worth your health, your mental health, your family, your time with your family, nothing. And if you don't have that in your current organization and you don't think that it's arriving anytime soon, it's time to find a new organization. Okay?
Can I follow with that and say, your job does not love you. It's okay to love your job. I do, or at least I did, because where it says CISO of Kinley, I'm not there anymore as of last month. Awkward.
The breach.
No, corporate.
Somebody else's personal data.
But it's okay to love your job, but your job does not love you. If you drop dead, everyone will be very sad. And 2 weeks later, there'll be a job description out there and your role will be getting filled.
Yeah.
Your job does not love you.
Yeah.
Treat it that way.
So let's look at some of the ways we can, build our resilience here, because I think a question here from Jonathan: does the ultimate risk of this burnout lead us to attacks and intrusions to businesses, ransomware, business closure as a result, etc.? I think the short answer would emphatically be yes.
Yeah. Mistakes
so
made.
we know it's a problem. Actually, it's incumbent on us as CISOs to therefore do something about this.
Okay.
We're potentially, you could argue, negligent in our roles by not addressing burnout because it's making the workplace more susceptible to damage. So therefore, practically speaking, what can we do?
So for incidents themselves, your team needs to be drilled. If it's a big one, they need to know that they go team A, team B, and team A stays, team B goes, and they swap over, and they have instant trust. You know that they're looking after, and you've got a team that can actually sit back and go, it's all right, I can switch off, I don't need to be part of this. So that's a really, really good one. Testing, make sure that the testing involves everybody. And I do mean HR, people team, whoever included, as part of that, because at that point you can sit there and make sure that there are the correct processes and policies in place for time in lieu. So even just normal thing, if somebody is working on a Friday evening, closing out a problem, whatever else, I don't expect them to be back in till after Monday lunchtime. There has to be a balance. And this is the most important thing that your team will see. The fact that you've got their back, you're looking after them, they will go to the ends of the earth to help you, but you need to make sure that they're protected at the same time. And you have to listen to yourself.
There is that. Also, practice, practice, practice. What I say back where I come from, repetition, 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 which is incident response should be something that you should build it into your incident response process, that the incident commander has some time to just calm down, get off that initial adrenaline high. They've got a few manual tasks that they have to do to set up the incident. Relax. Okay, now start thinking. Anything that the team is doing, especially dealing with incidents, etc., shouldn't be the first time they do it. They should have practiced and practiced and practiced. The military do drills so that people know what to do when there are real bullets flying, when the pressure is really on. And people don't feel quite as pressured when they know what to do. It's that feeling of not knowing what to do. I'm not in control. That feeling is a large part of the pressure that we feel as cybersecurity professionals, CISOs, and well, other people adjacent to us. And if we know what we should be doing, if we've rehearsed it, if our teams have rehearsed it, if they know under these circumstances, this is what we do. Under those circumstances, that is what we do. Spend those idle moments working on playbooks for just about every conceivable thing. The team will be much healthier for it. It's far easier to follow a set of instructions than to do it under pressure all of a sudden while the CEO is shouting, the CIO is running around with hair on fire, and the CISO can't be.
Oh, yeah, that's why they should be in the sessions.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree with both of you. And these are all really great points. I think it also starts at recruitment, right? It starts at the beginning. Hire for temperament, train for competence. Okay. I can't train for temperament. Okay. Have a no jerks policy. I'm sorry, that may be as blunt as it gets. All right. You're in a high pressure environment, the adrenaline's pumping. Fight or flight to many people, fight means exactly that. Fight. Is that the person you want in front of your customer, in front of a supplier, in front of senior management, in front of their subordinates? No. Hire for temperament, okay? Simply because you've got somebody in front of you who seems to be under control, seems to be on top of things, hire for that temperament. Train for that competence, right, behind it. And I think those are important things because it starts from day one.
Yeah, I say aptitude and attitude.
Yeah.
I want to. There's a question here, and I want to pick up on a point here because I'm very conscious it's an all male panel here at the moment, or a manel as I call it. But there's a question here from Laurie, which brings up a very important point here about what are some practical tips people can take forward to help minimize security team burnout, organization scale, complexity, gender. Now, having a gender diversity is, I think, from the outside, probably one of the most sensible ways to do it. There's not an all boys club. There's not the whole macho thing that you were talking about initially. You're going to get a far broader sense. I'm not saying maybe not as simple as that, but it's these sorts of things play into these organizational stereotypes and paradigms as to how we operate.
Yeah. Well, diversity balances a team.
Yes.
You want people with different characteristics, be that gender, be that neural characteristics, be that anything, different personalities in a team, because that will help to balance each other out. Because some people, when the incident occurs, are so relaxed. I mean, you're wondering whether they're alive. You need to take their pulse, right? And then you get other people where any time the focus is on them, you think, gosh, somebody just get their heart medication out because something bad's about to happen.
Yeah.
And they get that look, and you get everything in between. And I do think that a diverse incident response team, a diverse security team that helps deal with the incident response is incredibly important, because you get that totally calm person that just helps to bring order to a conversation.
And diversity goes into a lot of things, right? It doesn't have to be gender diversity. It's diversity of thought.
Yes.
It's diversity of perspective.
Yeah.
It's diversity of age, understanding, what have you, right? If you're a manager and you're managing cybersecurity responders, right? It's your job to put the best team together. It's to understand what motivates, incentivize, what environments works for each one of your team members. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. You can put processes in, you can put procedures in. We're a human business at the end of the day. Do not forget the human factor. All right. And it's our job as managers to understand that human factor, to use the diversity of all the available resources that we have to do and bring that to bear. Right. And that does not mean that we expect people to behave a certain way. We don't expect people to behave according to their gender or other stereotype. It's for us to understand what makes them tick and put them in the right role.
So there's another question here from Robert McCracken. Here we go. And it ties into the last panel we did in this room, actually. Could addressing the structure of security and or infosec reporting lines to break up the responsibility of the roles and reduce stress? So actually, and there's another question here that's related to that. It's about, I think it's the, what did they call it? The moral injury, the leading cause of burnout, all responsibility, but no chance to fundamentally change the rules of the game. So all responsibility, or in fact, I reword that, all the accountability, none of the responsibility. So not able to change it, but to be blamed for everything. So that structural change within the CISO, it's great to say should report to the board, but is that just heaping more misery upon misery?
For me, I've been far more chilled as a CISO since I started reporting to two separate board members, Chief Commercial Officer and the Chief Legal Officer. Prior to that, I reported to the CIO. That was way more stressful for me because I couldn't get my message to the board.
Yeah.
Right now, I've got two people I've trained up to understand what I say.
Yeah. You're sharing the burden, right? You're sharing the burden.
Yeah. I can get my message to them, and they're beginning to talk back to me and say, what can we do about? And that is music to my ears. That gives me the ability to achieve the things that I feel we should be achieving. And also speaking to board members, I'm getting far better picture of the real risk situation within the organization.
That is the number one failure
than I have ever had before.
The risk appetite,
it's the risk,
everything.
And a lot of stuff that it used to be in my teams, read world-ending risks. Like, oh my gosh, I'm having to change all those reds to kind of pink, green with a touch of yellow, maybe.
Use all the colors
because the board views it differently, and we need to.
That is the biggest stress that I see for a CISO. Is you could be the best CISO in the world. If you do not know how to communicate effectively, you're done.
Yeah.
Full stop. Right? Because you've got to be able to communicate in a way that the board's going to hear you.
And how is that?
Well, it's understanding the risks, understanding the triggers for the factor, understand where they're hitting them in reputation and in financial ability.
Money.
Yeah, I disagree with some of that. I think because boards are more interested in revenue and operational cost.
Yeah.
If you can talk those two things, and I get where you're coming from, but I think security risk is something like, according to Gartner, number 8 in their top 10. So yeah, talking in those terms will help immensely.
Yes.
Might be quite stressful trying to work that out though.
Well, use the FAIR method. You can actually quantify risk in a physical
27
format.
people in your team who can run the FAIR method because it's quite complex.
It's a good point, well made.
Yeah. Let's talk about tech tools. We've literally got 5, 6, 7 minutes left. Tech tools themselves to actually decrease that. I think the first one, I'm going to say it again, aren't I? Actually, no, DJ is going to say it. Has the introduction of AI increased burnout or decreased it with the option of automation. DJ, you might get a mug, but I'm going to fine you £1 for bringing that into the topic at this stage.
Can I just say yes?
And just
yes, yes. No, look, it's rough with the smooth on it.
Yeah.
As
Little column A, a little column B.
yeah. I mean, you've seen in the first talk today, it was Claude AI. Claude Opus 4.6 found 500 high severity flaws across open source libraries, all validated, all fixed. Now that means the doors are closing. That's a good thing. That also the bad guys who got access to exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Well, what we don't
Rough
know
with
is
the smooth.
they opened 5,000 more doors by fixing those 4,000 doors.
Yeah.
And at the same time, all the vibe coded applications out there are going to give us job security for decades. So it's one thing I'm totally chill about. Job security sorted, right? AI, thank you very much. To those weird CEOs out there whose words I do not trust for a moment. But at the same time, yes, in the hands of the adversary.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
In the hands of the adversary.
Definitely not a good thing for us.
Yeah.
In the hands of our colleagues, also not a good thing for us in many cases, because
have you met some of our colleagues?
Indeed, and
I'm looking at the audience.
Yeah.
and how many times is it going to happen that somebody's going to share the company's financial results with some or other chat GPT or such like before they're actually published?
I love AI.
You know?
I absolutely adore AI. All right. But it's the same idea of putting an iPad in your hands of your 3-year-old, right? You're thinking, yeah, this will be great for right now, but now I've gotten them addicted to it, and then who knows what comes from it. I think the reality is until you get your processes and procedures and your framework and your foundations in place, AI is not ready. You're not ready. Your organization isn't ready, right? Because what happens when you need to anticipate when the AI solution that you thought was going to make life easier has now made your life 3 times as hard because you didn't have operational processes, procedures in place for the people even using the AI to solve the problem. I love tech, but it's not a quick fix. You've got to have your organization tight before you start adding some tools into it to hopefully make your life easier. And you got to take the time to do that. But unfortunately, time is something we have scarce of in our industry.
With that, can I completely change the subject? It was about time, and it's about something that you can actually do to help, or something you can think about that will actually help. And this is adaptability. Now, I'm doing some work with some friends on this, and funnily enough, an awful lot of the good cyber people tend to be very adaptable, and that's because things change, and we're used to that. So if you're finding difficulty in comprehending why something is stressful, have a look at how are you feeling in an adaptive format? Are you too entrenched in some idea? Do you not want to go in a particular direction? And that's fine. I mean, that can be as simple as strategy. But have a look at adaptability. We talk about IQ, we talk about EQ. No one talks about either resilience quotient or adaptability quotient. And I think for us, that's actually really important. So something to take away and have a look at.
I'm going to paraphrase a question here from Mark, which basically, surely this automation is just going to help us get a little bit more of a work-life balance, or does nature abhor a vacuum and just fill our space anyway?
I think it's up to us to ensure that we get a work-life balance, because if we don't prioritize that, then yes, we will find other things to do. We will try to automate more, and we will try to get more stuff done through automation, and we will try to see more things, and take more on to fill in that vacuum. But I think it's incredibly important that we prioritize our own health, and the health of our teams. on a regular basis. We need to be reminding people to get good sleep. We need to do that ourselves. We need to take breaks. We need to exercise, good cardio if we can, but we need to eat well. We need to do all those things that give us the best chance
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
dealing with an inherently stressful role.
We skip the basics.
We can't get away from the
basics.
fact that
Skip the basics.
CISOing is stressful, but we can make ourselves more resilient to it by taking measures to ensure that we are as resilient to anything that comes.
Well,
as we can
cybersecurity
be.
is stressful.
It is.
It's not just CISO.
But you know, we're all looking for a fix. We're all looking for some shortcuts, and I
There
get
is.
that, right? But if you do choose to implement anything, whether it be a piece of tech, whether AI or what have you, remember the business case that you had to put before the budget holders as to why you were doing this in the first place, right? Efficiency gains, driving value into the business, doing more with less, right? You wrote a lovely business case in order to get the budget. You got the budget approved, you implemented, and you forgot to measure the success or failure of the implementation of your tech against the metrics that you sold in the first place, right? Right? Get the metrics right. Look at them regularly, measure against them regularly. If they're not working, pivot. If they're not working in another way, do something differently. And after 18 months, look at your adoption rate. It's like any other software implementation project. If you don't have the necessary adoption rates after a period of time, move on. It didn't work, right? And same thing goes with everything else. We do a lot on the front end, but once we've secured that ability to implement the project, we're so focused on getting this new tech installed, we've forgotten about how we're going to manage how well of an impact that it's had within the business. And we just keep our fingers crossed that it delivered against what we hoped that we put into our budget.
We've come to the end here. We've literally only got 3 minutes left before the end of the show. So I'm going to go around as my usual style, which is I'm going to ask you, what should our audience do as CISOs, security practitioners, senior leaders, etc.? What should they do when they get to their desks tomorrow and they don't want to be there and they're a little bit stressed and they don't? What should they do as regards potential or burnout or potential burnout or avoiding it?
Start setting boundaries, importantly. You're not responsible for everything. You cannot be responsible for it. Will kill you if you try to be responsible for everything. Set those boundaries with upper management and with your team and ensure that they also understand that they should do the same. Look after yourself. Sleep well, eat well, exercise well. It's important. A healthy body, healthy mind. You can't get past that. And if all else fails, God's sake, get a motorbike. They are so good at dealing with stress.
But you do have to be a middle-aged man in the middle of a crisis in order to start that process. Just saying.
Well, I resemble that comment.
Come on.
Yeah, I think if your team's small enough, schedule some one-to-ones, meaningful one-to-ones. Create a safe space. Listen to your people.
Like that.
Listen to your people, okay? Many of them simply want to be heard. They want to be recognized. They want to be listened to. Regardless if you can do anything with what they have to say, give them that opportunity for a little bit of catharsis, right? And then take back what you can do. And then second, meet with your HR teams. You got to all be recruiting somebody because we got enough turnover in this business as it is, right? And start thinking beyond your position description. Start thinking about the individual that you want on your team. How do you want to integrate them into your team? What attributes of that individual do you want on your team? Because that's what you're creating, a team.
And Don.
For me, firstly, don't be like me. Seriously, heart surgery sucks, but it was a shed load better than one other person who actually died because of the incident. So don't be like me. Think outside the box, do things that you normally wouldn't. Yoga, for example. So anything just that could be improved. Take your team meeting outside, go for a walk, something like that. So think outside the box. Your team will appreciate it. They will respond to it, and that they will truly approve of any positive changes.
Thank you, Johan, Kavan, Don. Thank you very much. Just some closing announcements. Our next teissTalk, back to our regular slot and regular online location, is on the 5th of March. It's next week, isn't it? Yeah, 5th of March.
Yeah.
Right, it's March already. Cybersecurity as a business metric, giving your C-suite the data to govern. Should be a good one to listen into. But mugs. So just like your favorite school teacher, if the following people could see me afterwards, please. We've got, and these are the names as they came up: Stephen, Matt W, Andre, Laurie, Jonathan, Robert McCracken, DJ, Mark, Gary Osborne, and Tiago. Please come and see me. And the Thai sales, I need 5 more mugs, please. Just rustle them up if you can. So if you come up and see me afterwards, you'll get your mugs. In the meantime, thank you all very much. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you for contributing. And for everybody else there, stay secure, my friends.
And I didn't even get to tell the story about my.
Oh my God.